hell of an organization here. Anyway, really what I want to do is, thought maybe everybody's got a beer or two in them enough to maybe come up and tell a story. And I thought maybe what we'd do, kind of change it up, is when somebody gets done telling a story, instead of like we're waiting and calling somebody else up, I'm going to tell this first story, and then I'm going to tell whoever you come up and you tell your story. Because I know everybody here has at least one story about Scott. Okay? So here's my first story about Scott. Years ago we were going up to see Rick Parsons at Trillium and play golf. And I had this big old black Lincoln Continental. It was the last year they made that real big one. And it was me and Scott and Kent Bell. We were going to see Rick at his place, and we kind of got lost to go up to his house. We were at the course. Of course, I'm driving, and of course Scott and Kent telling me how to drive and where to go, you know. I mean, so we went over this bridge, I thought, and I'm going, man, this bridge is pretty thin, you know. I don't think I'm supposed to be here. And Kent in the back, Scott in the front. No, you keep going. That's good. We're doing fine. And go over the bridge, and I go around the next turn. I mean, this is up in the mountains where Rick's at, so there's a lot of turns, and they're all blind. You don't know where you're going next. I come around this turn, and all of a sudden the road gets real thin. I'm like, dudes, this is a cart path. This ain't no road for a car. No, keep going. Oh, okay. I said, Scott, call Rick on the cell phone, man. Find out where we are. This ain't right. This Scott's dialing him. I come around another curve. All of a sudden, here's the chipping green. And there's an old man out there. He's got to be in his 90s. He's out there chipping. I go cruising by him. He turns around and he looks at me. Turns back around and goes right back to his chipping. I'm like, this ain't right. Scott's got Parr on the phone. He's talking to him, and he hangs up and he goes, oh, Parr says, I think we're doing right. Keep going. He says if you make another turn and you see the driving range, you're not doing good. Now I'm really going up high. Come around this hairpin turn, and there's 8 people on the driving range. Now, you should have seen me get that thing in reverse and get back down there to the chipping green. There's the old man looking at me. I'm trying to make a 3-point turn on a little golf cart path. This guy looked over again. He goes, that's got to be Alice Cooper in the back seat. Of course, that's Kent Bell, you know. God, Kenny, think you're Alice Cooper, man. I'm not in trouble now. Finally, I got turned around. We went out there. We ended up finding Parr's place, but they never let me forget about going by the chipping range in my Lincoln Continental. Edie, are you eating, or you want to go next? Or how about Jim Weaver? Where are you at, Jim? I know you're here. Jim around? You feeding your face, Jim? Oh, okay. All right, well, how about Kevin Cassidy?
Tough act to follow there, Butch. I don't have any humorous story about Scotty. I just remember Scotty as a great friend, and we talk sports all the time, and it wasn't just pro sports, it was a local sports, always talking about his daughters and their exploits on the courts. Just remember all our trips to volleyball tournaments, and my daughter was playing the younger age group, and hanging with Butch and Edie and at the courts watching different teams. Remember how proud he was when Abby blocked, I don't know what the hell her name was, but some 7-foot-tall middle blocker. Scotty was all over that. It didn't matter they lost 25-11. She blocked that girl, you know. He's just really, really proud of his girls, and that's what I remember him for. So. Who am I going to call up? How about Tim Woltz?
last one I can probably remember is.
Gotta lean to the mic.
Or you gotta be as loud.
There you go.
Put it close to your mouth, won't see. All right, it was a couple weeks ago before Scott got really bad and everything. I went over to the house to see him. They were changing out the hospice bed, so he was out in the living room. He came out when I walked in. He was on a lot of painkillers, so he was pretty messed up. And he gave me a hug, you know, he sat down in the recliner. And they gave him a bunch of pillows to just prop his head up, because he couldn't even hold his head up. It was pretty bad. He just kind of looked at me and says, "Woodsy, I just had the strangest dream the other night." He said it was so real, it was unbelievable. I said, "Really?" And every time he did, he was picking his head up, of course rubbing his arm. His arm was real bad, that was his pain. And he said, "Yeah, I was on second base, and there was a base hitting the hole, and I come around second, come around third to score," he said, and he lifted his head up. "I hit third base bag just perfect." And he said he come around to score, and he woke up, and he was bleeding all over himself, and the bedroom was a total mess. He dove for home out of bed, and he had all of us, Abby, Mrs. V, a bunch of other people there, and the whole living room was just rolling and laughing. And I said, he put his head back down, you know, I said, "Well, V.O., were you safe?" And he lifted his head back up and said, "I don't know." That's what I'll leave with him. That's how I remember him. So, yeah. How about Ronnie Van Ostenbridge?
Ronnie. Oh, here you are. Go, Ronnie. It's your turn.
Got a story for us?
So many.
I know.
That was probably the best story of the night there.
Pick the most inappropriate.
I can't do it inappropriate. I don't know any. You know, I don't. I really don't have one story to say. But the one thing I will say about my cousin, and I mean this sincerely, is he's one of the only people I think I know in my entire life that has never said one bad thing about one person ever. And that's something to take to the bank. I never heard him say a bad word about anybody. It was anything positive and only forward. And I respect him for that. I'm going to miss him. The only thing I can tell you is in my last year of Little League, I was winning the batting title, and the little shit came up and beat me. So I was always a bridesmaid with him. But Scott was a competitor. I loved him dearly. I'm going to miss him dearly. But the one thing I think all of us can learn is he never said a bad word about anybody to anybody. There was nothing. If he didn't have something good to say, he didn't say it. And he always had good humor. And his kids will carry on that humor as it is. And that's really all I have to say. I'm going to miss him dearly.
Now you pick someone to go.
I got something.
You got it, buddy.
My name is Jim Stuffelbean, and just like on the stage here, I've known Scotty for quite a while, played softball against him. I got a two-way story here. The first one is we used to play a lot of softball tournaments, and Scotty and Butch and sometimes Hearts and probably leaving out Dog would come and play ball with us because we were shorthanded. So we went to a tournament down in, I think it was Punta Gorda or Fort Myers, and on Friday night it really got cold and we were all going out clubbing. For you younger kids, clubbing means catting, but so we're going out clubbing, and I didn't have any long pants, so I know it's hard to believe, but I wore Scott's pants. He had an extra pair, so we go out, and that night we're all having dinner, and the Duffy's guys ate ribs, And maybe Dog can speak up about those ribs. I don't think they were quite done. So Dog missed the rest of the tournament, but on the next morning, we were getting ready to get the game started, and it was like, well, it's 15 minutes. We got to get going here. I said, where's Scotty and where's the guys? And they're out there in the van. In the van? Anybody want to? In the van. Well, Stuff, you need to go out and get them. And I said, I ain't going out to that van. I said, I just want them to come out of the van because I know what they're going to do when they get on the field. So that's the first part of my story. I love the guy to death, and exactly, he never said a bad word about anybody. And years later, Abby was at Palmasola Elementary. My daughter, Taylor, same class. I picked a day to go to lunch with your daughter. We sat at the same picnic table, and I finally saw somebody who loved their daughter more than I love mine. And trust me, I love my daughter. So Scotty was a great dad, and we're here for a great reason. And Scotty, we love you, babe. Somebody raise their hand. Anybody raise their hand. Okay, I think I don't have enough. Anybody making a move for the money? Oh no. Somebody have a beer. They'll have another. They'll have it.
All right, I'm Greg Dietrich, and I got to go way back for this story, all the way back to elementary school.
Can we all go back there?
Most of you know my dad was our principal, and that was a story in itself, but that would have been bad anywhere else but Anna Maria, because it was okay then, if he was the principal anywhere else it would have been bad. But, one story we had was somehow, we always played sports and everything, but we were during a recess one time, Scott and I were wrestling, and we had Miss Otley for 5th grade, and she came out and she thought we were fighting or whatever, and she said, both of you down to the office, to go see the principal. So, we go down there, and Scott and I are standing, and my dad comes in and is like, what were you doing? I heard you were fighting. Oh, we were just wrestling. Snoop, get over here and bend over. And that was my nickname. So I get over there, and he bends me over, and whack, 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 whack. And Scott's standing there like, he looks over at Scott and says, I hope that taught you a lesson. Now go back to class. Anyway, that's how I remember it. But Scott's awesome. But he's an awesome guy, and we're going to miss him. But thanks.
Awesome one.
Let's see.
Johnny.
Johnny B.O. All right, who wants to volunteer here? There we go.
Hey everybody, I'm Anna, Scott's favorite daughter. So one time we went to Sweetberries. This was like a few years ago. And it was in February, so everyone that was working there had on their aprons, and they had this red heart that was on their apron. And we get up to order, and I place my order, and Dad does the like get ready for this. Like Scott is talking to you, and you're listening, but he always has to tap you to make sure. Yeah. And he puts his order in, and the kid was like probably 14 years old, boy. And he looks at me and says, so, you got a heart on there, huh? I'm like covering my mouth laughing, and this kid just right over him. No idea what he's talking about. He looks down and he goes, yeah, I do. I couldn't share that in church yesterday. How about Lisa Verano?
Now we get some women up here to tell some stories.
How about Jack Dietrich, and next time tell us the true story of what happened on that other one?
Yeah.
Well, I only have one really memorable one, but it's a good memorable one, for me anyway. Scott, for a long time, kept egging me on about fishing because I love to go fishing, and I wanted to go fishing, and he had a boat, and he kept saying, I'll take you fishing, I'll take you fishing. Well, it never happened. So one day we were in Duffy's, the old Duffy's, And he was there and I was there. I had the day off and I said, when are you taking me fishing? He goes, well, how about let's do it today? I said, let's do it. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah, let's go. So we go. And of course his parents were living on 72nd Street in Holmes Beach. And we go there, we get in the boat, we go out, we're right behind the Key Royale golf course. And we're like pulling the trout in. As soon as we throw the bait out there, we're pulling them in. We slayed them. We had like 15 trout. So we take them all back and we're at the seawall and Scott pulls out the fillet knife and he's ready to fillet them. And I said, well, do you have another knife? And he said, well, I don't know. I probably do inside. And so he goes inside and all of a sudden I hear Mr. V, Dad, Poppy, and he says, what? She cleans her own fish? She's a keeper. So that's my story. Golly. I'll look around this room, and I think Vicki Van Ostenbridge should come up and say something. No, no, aw. Abby will go.
I don't really have like a specific story, but just a little joke that he liked to play on some of us. And I watched him tell this joke several times, but the first time I ever heard it, I was unfortunately the victim. So my senior year in high school, my dad was working with my Uncle Butch quite a bit out on the island doing masonry and whatnot. So we're in the car one day and we're heading to volleyball practice together and he's like, Abby, I have the craziest story to tell you. Now whenever he started with that, you didn't know if it was going to be a joke or not. So I'm like, okay, what happened? And he's like, me and Uncle Butch were coming back into town the other day and this ambulance goes zooming by. And he goes, so of course, you know, we pull off to the side of the road. Well, the back doors open and this cooler flies out. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm 17 and gullible. So I'm like, what? Okay, tell me more. And he's like, this cooler falls out, so Uncle Butch and I go get it because they probably need it. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So he tells me that they go and get the cooler and they open it. And he's like, the best part about his jokes is the delivery. He made it like so believable every time. He's like, we opened it and on ice is someone's big toe. And I'm like, no way, like, okay. And he's like, I was like, so did you go to the hospital? Like, what did you do? And he's like, no, we made a phone call. And I was like, what? He's like, we called the tow truck. And he just left. So anyway, I got to hear that joke one-on-one. A few years later, we're at Christmas, and he's got the cousins together and my sister there. And he's telling this joke, and of all the people to ask, oh my God, what did you do? It was my sister, and she should have known.